Fanatical Elfz Show, part of the L Network. We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bringing you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. Hey! Hello, everybody. It's Thursday night. We are the Fanatical Elfz Network. Thank you for stopping by here. Welcome, Steve. Welcome, Sam. Welcome, Jarrell. How are you all doing? Sam, how you doing down there in the Lone Star State of Texas?
Fine. I mean, could be better if the Browns weren't 1-4, but it's all right. We could be the Panthers or the Patriots, so you got to look on the bright side of things. But it's fine. I mean, we haven't had rain in like 2 months. Could be worse. We could be in Tampa Bay and having to deal with like 5 hurricanes in a row. But
yes,
we're fine. It's nice out here. It's cooling down finally. So I just wish the Browns were doing better.
Yes. It's been a long week. But Sam, nice to have you along here. We're going to get into the dirt and all the mud of the week and the season so far. But Steve, Gil, how are you doing?
Doing well. It's been beautiful here in Nashville. It's nice and cool, upper 70s, low 80s. Luckily, my only 2 family members on my wife's side who had to stay in Tampa.
Yes.
One because he's a director of a nursing home and got to stay there.
Okay.
And my other nephew, who his grandmother would not leave, so he and a friend stayed with her. We've heard from both of them. They are fine.
Good.
No power, terrible cell service. But other than that, feel bad for the people on the beaches, though. St. Pete, Clearwater, dealing with a lot of water, a lot of sand, a lot of debris left over from Helene. So, the rest of my wife's family went to Tallahassee. I don't know when they're going to go back, but we'll find out.
Yeah, it's been a really rough, tough period down there in Florida. I was watching some of the coverage last night. We had been down in Sarasota recently, actually in Siesta Key, where I think the eyewall went over there for a few minutes last night. So that was interesting to see that on the Weather Channel. But lots of rough weather there in Tampa too. They just watched that coverage. That was just
a lot of rain.
A lot of rain.
A lot of rain.
Yeah. Jarrell, how are you tonight?
Doing well.
Yes.
I've stayed off of the internet cesspool that is Brown's turmoil and drama. So it's helped my stress levels tremendously. So
bravo.
I'm sure I didn't help earlier in the week with my objective comments and opinions once in a while, but thanks for all being here still. This is the Fanatical Network, and again, Steve and Jarrell and Sam all provide amazing, great content. Sam with his Browns breakdowns every week, Steve with his Dog Pound South show, Jarrell with his dog food radio programming, just doing some really good stuff. Again, we're going to be providing that coverage to you guys continually throughout the season, rain or shine. So good news, Nick Chubb is continuing to progress, looking good out there in some of the video film. I'm seeing him just, getting worked out. Where do you feel things are going to be with him? Jarrell, let's start with you, with Nick. Do you think he's due to come back? Are we going to wait another couple weeks, or what do you think that looks like?
Well, this might actually be a good segue into these stats. I don't really. Whenever he comes back, I think the offensive line is a concern. Whether he comes back in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, the offensive line since 2020 has been trending downward, and I don't think we really looked at that. I don't think nobody really paid attention to it. But I went back and I looked at the sacks numbers from the last 4 or 5 years because everybody's talking about Watson's taking all these sacks.
Yeah.
In 2020, they only gave up 26 sacks for the whole season. That was that was 25th in the league.
I remember. Yeah.
So they were top 10. In
top
21,
10,
they gave up 49 sacks.
Yep.
That was good for 6. Mayfield was sacked 4.
Hurt his shoulder and yep.
22, they gave up 44 sacks. That was 13th. In 2023, they gave up 45 sacks. That's good for 12th. And right now, they're probably on pace for 50 plus sacks. That to me shows that the offensive line, for whatever reason, they haven't really made any upgrades there. Either Nick Chubb made the offensive line look better than it was, or when he gets back, the offensive line is going to get a boost. I don't really know. But my hope is that he comes back 100% and there's no snags to where, his conditioning, I'm hoping everything is good. But he needs to be back for one of the divisional games. That would be my hope, either Bengals or Ravens.
Okay. Steve, what do you think?
I've said the entire time, week 7, Bengals. First game of a 3-game homestand. That's when it makes the perfect sense. Yeah. Like Jarrell said, it's a divisional game. First home game after 3 weeks on the road. I think they'll get a boost from Jack Conklin this week.
You think he'll be back?
Hopefully. Yeah. I hope so. Because right now, in addition to the sacks, right now, Watson is facing he is being pressured 85% of the time. That's a league high. The next highest is 73% of the time. And the vast majority of those pressures are...
Who's that team? Yeah, what's that?
20% by the right tackle and 23.5% by the left tackle. So what does that tell you? According to Pro Football Focus, of all those pressures, 16.5% are on him. So, yeah, I know. I found that interesting. So I would hope if they Conklin back, shore up, get Zach Center out of there. He shouldn't be playing. He should be sitting a year and learning. Get Michael Dunn in there. Hopefully Postek is all right to play. Although him and Harris have given up something like about 18% of the pressures. But I'd wait till week 7.
Sam, what are you looking forward to when Nick Chubb gets back, or what are your expectations? I know you've talked about Nick Chubb before in your Browns breakdown shows. What do you think that's going to look like, and what should we expect as Browns fans?
When I talked about it, I said that it's going to change a lot, but it's also not going to change a lot because, again, the run to set up the pass thing, it hasn't gone anywhere. Yeah. And not having a good running back is, you can look at it with the 49ers. They don't have Christian McCaffrey. Their running back is not bad. But without Christian McCaffrey, that they lose a lot of that running back threat, which really limits how well Brock Purdy and how well all their receivers can do because people can focus more on the passing game because the running back, they have a good running back, but because the running back isn't the best basically in the game right now. And I think it'll change some things, but I also don't think our offensive line is very good. I've heard a few people saying that it doesn't even look like the offensive linemen want to block for Deshaun Watson anymore. And we're dealing with injuries, but if the offensive line can't create gaps, Nick Chubb isn't going to be able to do anything. Doesn't matter if you have prime LaDainian Tomlinson or some random scrub. You're not going to be able to get anywhere more than 3 yards if you can't open up holes and actually get anything for your running back to get through. So I think that's going to be the biggest problem, but I think it'll help because it'll put a lot of pressure on the filling of the box, and you can't just drop your safeties back and just kind of assume it's going to be a pass every single play.
Well, and that gets back to Jarrell. You touched on it too. Like, how much of this whole thing that we're talking about with the line and Nick Chubb, how much of it was Nick Chubb kind of sugarcoating and covering over, disguising some of the issues. The thing, it's just, I don't know. And what do you guys think about all that?
Well, I had the numbers here. If you look at the rushing statistics for the Browns, I want to say they were top 5. I'll pull them here in a minute.
Yeah, they were. I mean, that's what I've looked at these stats too in the past. I mean, they've always been solidly up there.
When he got hurt, then I think they were 12th maybe last year, and now they're like 30th or something. So to me, that's because we've had this conversation about Kevin Stefanski and his play calling, and y'all have seen me post the passing stats. They haven't been higher than 19th.
Yeah.
What kind of didn't put a microscope on that was that the run game was top 5. So you didn't really have to go through the offense with a fine-tooth comb, because when you really needed to get a first down, you could just hand the ball off to Chubb.
Yeah.
Chubb getting hurt, I think that kind of exposed the flaw in this offense. Like, I think we're seeing that Nick Chubb really was the lifeblood of what everything that Kevin Stefanski wanted to do. And now that you're having offensive line problems, now your scheme as far as the receivers doesn't look explosive, and they've been telling us for a year over the summer, hey, it's going to be explosive, it's going to be this.
Something just happened, Jarrell, with Steve's pounding his fist. So, sorry to interrupt you. I think the Guardians must have done something. Yes,
David Fry, 2-run home run, 4-3.
Oh, sweet Jesus, amen.
Top of the 7th with 2 outs.
And so
Kwan
they took
on second, and they pinch. I think David Fry pinch hit for somebody, but he just launched a 2-run home run to make it 4-3.
Well, he finally came through. Okay, Jarrell, back to you.
No.
Sorry about that.
That was it. It was just it was the passing game was always below average. The running game was always elite. Now that you have Chubb, who was hurt. Like I said, I just think it exposed the offense. And so now it's interesting, those stats that Steve posts, because that to me says, Watson can play better, but it's also not all his fault. There's a lot of the offensive line is to blame. The scheme is to blame. The receivers not getting separation, the drop balls. They got a lot that they have to fix.
They got mega problems. I mean, it's everybody.
Well,
I still want to. I'll give you another stat on the importance of Nick Chubb. There are 3 backs in the NFL. I don't know what the time frame is, but they've at least averaged 80 yards a game. One, unfortunately, is Saquon Barkley, who the Browns have to face. The other one is McCaffrey. And the third one is Nick Chubb, and he did it twice. So in a season, at least 80 yards a game rushing in a season.
Right.
I think Jarrell is right. If he does come back for the Bengals game, I think that'll give the team a nice little boost, and they're going to need it.
The Nick Chubb,
they're going up against a very good offense in Philly, and coming off of
that Bengals. I mean, it just makes sense because the Chubb has historically always had his best games against Cincinnati. I referred to it in the context of a text I sent you guys earlier in the week, and I would. In my text, I was talking about running games and running the ball, and I was talking about Kareem Hunt, who's playing for Kansas City now. Congratulations to Kareem. I know he doesn't play for the Browns, but I was glad to see that he had a successful evening. I don't want the Browns either, and I think I implied in my text to you guys off air that I thought, the Browns. I said that the Browns need to run the ball, but I don't. They had always equally given those carries between Chubb and Hunt over the years when they played together, and so they weren't, tiring them both out. So anyway, I was going back to the Cincinnati connection. Chubb did have like the most carries ever in one game against the Bengals. I think that was back in 2019, maybe, or 2020, where they won that. It was like a primetime game. They won 35-20. And I think he had like 28 or 30 carries in that game. So not going to be doing that in this game, but it's good that he'll have a good game against the Bengals. He historically has, and maybe it's a good way to kind of bring him back in. And if he doesn't come in that Bengals game, he'll be ready to go against the Ratbirds.
Let me pose one question, and maybe y'all can answer to the contractual stuff, because I'm not really an expert there. But with the Chubb injury, and you knew he was going to be out until week 7 or 8, and you had all of these running backs come available: Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Swift, Josh Jacobs. And you mentioned the Chubb Hunt 1-2 punch, the 1-2 tandem. I think Ford is decent, but I don't think that Ford is as good as Kareem Hunt was back in 19 and 20. Why didn't they try to bolster that to say, let's try to upgrade at running back, right? And then when Chubb comes back, we can settle back into that 1-2 punch. Is there any reason why they didn't try to at least make a run at
Chubb's contract is incentive laden, but it's only for the incentives only apply for 12 games. So they knew he was going to miss at least 5.
Mm-hmm.
So, which, that's why there's a lot of speculation that he'd be back this week. So he could start earning incentives. And we don't know. He could be. I agree with Jarrell. I was all for signing Swift. I mean, I like Foreman. He's your Kareem replacement, but he's actually got to be on the field to be a Kareem replacement. I think Jerome Ford is a decent back. He substituted as the number 1 back last year. You don't plan on your superstar running back getting hurt, but that's why I wanted to get a little better upgrade, like with a Swift for the running back room, and Strong. I like him, and he's still on a rookie contract, but he can't hold on to the ball. And Hines will give this team a boost in a Dave Meggett kind of way, and he'll also boost the special teams. But they needed a legitimate NFL number 2 guy who could sub as your 1 until Chubb comes back, and then take a step back. Yeah, and they didn't get it.
Sam, would you
have a battering ram?
What do you think about the whole running situation right now? How do you assess what you're seeing by the Browns? I mean, because you do look at some of the stats statistically, and I know they're on the low end of things, but I've also been seeing things about how like their runs per average runs, like for Jerome Ford, have been pretty good. Obviously, he's thrown in some really long runs in that series. But Sam, how do you assess everything with Foreman and Strong and all these other guys coming in, and is it just the poor running game, poor offensive line? Where do you sit with all that?
Yeah, I mean, right now we just have to. I feel like this is a storm, and I feel like we just kind of have to sit through it. I feel like we. I guess this feels way too prevalent because of what's going on, but I feel like we missed the evacuation notice, and now we're dealing with the consequences. I feel like we missed.
Sam, you always have a way to say something every week. I love it, man. I love
excellent it. Excellent analogy. Let me tell you, that's an excellent analogy.
I wish I had the quick mindset like you do. I'm old and I can't think like you anymore. But
I think right now we just got to kind of sit here and deal with it. We have like 60 million in cap, but how much of that will get like taken up by Deshaun Watson and stuff?
Every last penny.
They're about 55 million under the cap right now. Okay. And they'll roll over the majority of that. I've been hearing the wrong
number. I must have been thinking over, not under. That's my fault. But I think there's nothing we can do, and we just kind of got to hope Nick Chubb can figure something out, and we can hope our offensive line can fix itself, because something has to change, and it's either going to be maybe benching Deshaun Watson. We'll see. I don't know if that'll happen.
Yeah,
maybe it'll happen, but Stefanski losing play calling. Something has to change before anything can get fixed here, and I don't know what it's going to be.
All right, Sam.
They're 44 million under 44.4 million under the cap.
Let's.
I must have my numbers wrong.
Let's pause for a quick break here in the Fanatical Elfz Show. We'll be right back. Thank you for coming back to the Fanatical Elfz Show. We've just been talking about Nick Chubb and this team and his chances of coming back, or when he'll be coming back, hopefully soon. The Browns are
he's not the secret solution to all their offensive problems.
No, they're not.
I mean, you got to have a healthy offensive line that can actually block a simple stunt. That would kind of help. And you also have to have wide receivers who can catch a ball, and a quarterback who can make. What's that?
And you have to have a coach that's willing to run it in situations that call for him to get the ball rather than passing it.
Their only victory this year, what did they do right out of the gate?
Yeah.
Heavy set. Run the ball. Run the ball. Run the ball.
No, but
do so that the entire game.
Let me ask you this. Okay, so the offense and Ken Dorsey and all of this stuff that we're talking about, that heavy set you're talking about, the game that they won. So they have these plays, right? Then, guys, they have the plays in their playbook that they could do this. Like, because everyone's trying to compare it Like they're saying this year's offense is a whole new offense, and that it's with the same players from last year, but we kind of got rid of that offense that was more heavy set, right? Before, and now we brought Ken Dorsey.
Supposedly they took the best of last year's offense and integrated into this offense. But first of all, I read an article by a guy named Brad Ward. Yeah. And he pointed out, and I'm going to read you a quote from Kevin Stefanski, and you tell me when he said this. We need to be way better offensively from an operations standpoint. That was not good. Some of it was the cadence, some penalties, some were false starts, some of them were the tackles were aligned too deep, and at times. So those are all the things that are correctable, and we will correct them. Not a great day for our pass protections, but more from a miscommunication standpoint. When did he say that?
That could have been any time in the last 5 years.
He said that after the first scrimmage against the Vikings.
Okay.
Surprise. Now, everybody ignored it. I ignored it because nobody thought the Vikings were going to be any good. But they're going to start a rookie quarterback who ended up getting hurt. And then we all hear, oh, Sam Darnold's going to start. Now, who in the hell had Sam Darnold going 5-0 to begin the season?
Right.
Nobody.
No.
Nobody. So they knew this was going to be a problem, but nobody picked up on it.
Yeah, but he has said things like that. He hasn't said things like that in the past, like other years?
Not to the specific.
Here's what fans are tired of.
They're still having it.
They're tired of hearing Kevin Stefanski say, "We got to be better. I got to be better. Everyone's got to be better." That's all we hear.
I got to be better.
Well, I know, but it's so damn boring, and it's just like, and I know they're playing everything close to the vest.
I'm just saying this is not a surprise,
right?
And I'm going to start listening to Kevin Stefanski interviews in preseason so I can lower my expectations.
Was this the same?
That's the lesson here.
Because I seem to remember a scrimmage where they were saying the offense looked horrible. I do remember that during the summer that they said
that was day one.
They said they looked
against
horrible.
The Vikings.
Yeah. So you just jogged my memory. So if that's the case, I know a guy that played for the Browns in the late 80s. I used to work with him, and he used to always have this saying. He said because he went to a smaller college, he said when you get to the league, either you can play or you can't. All those guys that come, from college with a name, once you get on the field, it really doesn't matter. So so it's hard for me to give them passes for this 1-4 start. If what Steve is saying and what I'm remembering, like it's a train wreck that's been waiting to happen. They just probably thought we'll get it fixed by the time week 1 happens. But when you don't play anybody in the preseason, you're also
why is it? But why is it such a mess, considering what we came out of last year? I know we've had some injuries.
They were counting on Conklin and Wills coming back. They were counting on Adeniji taking over for Hudson because he is way better than Hudson. I mean, he's not the second coming of Joe Thomas, but he's way better than Hudson. Okay. But he got hurt late in training camp. You had a ton of – you can't predict injuries and you can't predict rehabs.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But all I'm saying is this has been a problem since a scrimmage against a Vikings team that at the time nobody thought was going to be any good.
I want to ask you this before we finish up the show and have our final takes and everything. I want to get into the whole a little bit because some of us here disagree with one another. But I'm listening to you, Steve, with Watson and with Stefanski and everything that's been happening this week. Everyone's talking about it. And there's a lot of people out there, analysts. Okay, we're all analysts too, like we've talked about.
Oh, are we officially analysts now? I want to pay grade. I want to upgrade. Come on.
But the idea that, we're 1-4. Watson, in a lot of people's opinions, I'm just speaking what everyone else is saying and what is not playing well. He sucks. and the national media is talking about it. The local media is talking about it. And there have been people this week talking a lot about how this isn't Kevin Stefanski's decision to bench Watson, because when we ask Stefanski, he automatically just says, no, we even haven't thought about it. He's not going to be benched. And so people are perceiving that there's got to be somebody above him pulling the strings saying, you can't make that call. Now, Steve, you and I disagree. I believe that too, to a degree, but you have it under some good word that potentially that's not the case in your opinion.
It's in who the individual I talked to, it's Kevin Stefanski's call. Mm-hmm. He is not getting pressure from the Haslams. He is not getting pressure from the front office. He is not getting pressure from Paul DePodesta, everybody's poster child for what's wrong with everything in the Cleveland sports area. It's his call. Now, he will tell the front office if he's going to bench him. Now, he could have already told them this week, look, if things go south quick, I'm going to have to bench him and bring in Jameis Winston. Okay. But it's his call.
Okay. So with that in mind, if it's his call, I think then it's like, we're playing back into what you already have been talking about tonight with the offensive line and all the quote like you had about the Vikings game. It just seems like the eye test is just telling people like this isn't going to get much better. Maybe it does in Philly. You're going into a rough environment in Philly. They're coming off a bye. Obviously, they're not in the best shape either, but considering what Cleveland's gone through, I think a lot of Browns fans are just like, we're done. I mean, Steve, you talked about it at the beginning of your podcast on Monday that, the season's over. But now, Jarrell, you've said, now hold the phone in your show.
Yeah, far from over.
Right. So, I don't know.
They could totally surprise me against the Eagles. The Eagles, what are they ranked? I got their ranking on defense. Total 27th ranked, rush defense 21st, pass defense 24th. Mm-hmm. So here we go again. We're playing a team that has a suspect defense. Mm-hmm. So if they can
especially in the past,
semblance of blocking schemes and get all these guys on the same page, and not have 14 guys in the huddle consecutively, and that's on the coaches. That's totally on the coaches. You call a timeout because you have 12 men on the field, and then you come back and you got 12 men in the huddle. Yeah. You can't substitute and you can't call another penalty. So what does Deshaun Watson do? He looks over at Kevin Stefanski, and Stefanski gets mad because he knows who put the players in there. It's just when one mistake happens,
I'm watching that.
When one mistake happens, it steamrolls, and it started with a special teams guy hitting the Washington guy who called for a fair catch. Mm-hmm. Stupid penalty number one.
Yeah, you did say that. I remember that. It's like watching. Like I coached 7th and 8th grade middle school football for a few years, and that's sometimes I felt like when I watched the Browns, it's like, there would be some chaos on the sideline at a middle school game, with the, playing calling or the kids running in or out, substitutions. And that's like how sometimes I feel when I'm watching the Browns recently. It's just, I don't think all the Browns fans want to go back in time. They don't want to revert back to the, that 1-16, 0-17 feeling. And be the same.
Don't call for them to blow up the team. What do you want? Dysfunction? Right. If anybody is going to make this better, it's going to be Steady Eddie. You don't want some guy who's going to make rash, stupid decisions or be stubborn and not see the writing on the wall like Hugh Jackson. He's got Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb, and he's trotting out Travis Taylor and Carlos Hyde week after week after week. I know I said the season's over, but there's still a possibility to save it. And I would rather have Kevin Stefanski try and save it. We won't hear about any play caller change because he's not going to tell you he's if there's a play call.
He's not going to hand over the big Denny's menu. We're not going to see.
He's not going to hold up a sign and take the Denny's menu and officially with trumpets and fireworks hand it over to Ken Dorsey. He's not going to do that.
What was that dish in Denny's? It was the moons over my hammy. What was that? You ever go to Denny's? They had the moons over my ham.
It's been a while.
Isn't that what they called it? Like the couple things of ham and eggs and okay, never mind.
Personally, I'd rather go to Waffle
Sam.
House.
Sam or Jarrell, Sam, let's start with you for a second. Do you think Stefanski is, you think he's safe this year?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that he will he ever give up play calling?
I don't know about play calling. Next year, if we suck again next year, then he's going to have a problem. But it's really hard yes, it might have been a fraudulent coach of the year, but it's really hard to fire a coach right after they win coach of the year. The Cowboys deal with it, and Mike McCarthy hasn't even won coach of the year. He's won 12 games and hasn't done anything in the playoffs multiple years in a row. And
you've mentioned that, yeah.
And so getting coach of the year basically gives you a free year. You can suck all you want the next year and you'll be fine. But the year after that, you definitely have to worry about you losing your job. But it's the same thing with college football almost. You could win the Natty one year, and then you're more or less safe the next year. Obviously, there's cases and stuff, but you're more or less safe the next year. But then you have to worry if you suck again. But I think he's pretty safe this year. I don't think he has to worry too much.
Okay. Jarrell, what do you think? Do you think he's safe?
I think if the organization is trying to win, I think it's 50-50. And I think it should be based on performance. I don't think it should be based on what he did 4 years ago, because I think you'll remember when Flacco won the Super Bowl and Baltimore paid him, Flacco was never the same after that. He was never the same after that, after he got his money. So, there's a thought process to be said to where, okay, am I going to pay you off previous production, or am I going to pay you off of what you're doing right now? And so in the show I did on Monday, I looked at the wins. They won 11 games in 2020. I think it was 7 the next year, then 8, then 11 again. That's good for an average of 8 wins. Yeah. So the years that he's been here, that's good for an average. And I think the floor for this team, wins-wise, is 6 to 8. I think the ceiling is 11. In any other division in football, 11 wins probably wins you the division 9 out of 10 times. They've won 11 games twice, and they haven't won the division because the other teams in this division either win 12 or 13 games.
Good observation.
And to me, that is where you might have to, like what Sam just said, that they may not do is fire somebody that won coach of the year, but you may have to try to get you over the hump, because that 8 wins average, it really needs to be about 11 wins on average, because you're in the hardest division in football. It doesn't really look like it right now, but we're about to get into the meat of the schedule, and they're going to beat each other's asses.
Well, and the beat down amongst, everybody this week, I'm pushing forward too much, and I'm looking ahead too forward. But if they take a beating against Philly, and they're 1-5, and they're coming home to play Cincinnati. Okay, now you might have Nick Chubb coming back that game, but you're coming back, and I'm just telling you, just as a Browns fan who goes to these games, and the fans have not been happy this season at home. We've lost 2 games at home already. If they come back and they lay an egg against Cincinnati, a team that they've won against a lot over the last several seasons with Stefanski, I don't know if that team's going to be able to get out of that stadium alive. The fans are just going to come unglued. And I know that some of us here don't care or don't perceive, or that I know that the organization doesn't care internally, but I just look at it this long-term thinking, I'm just talking to lots of Browns fans like you guys are doing. And I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. There are so many Browns fans that I talk to on a daily basis that I work with and stuff that are just so done. These are a lot of fans that are in my age group that are in their 40s, their 50s, or 60s, and they've seen this already. And yeah, we can get through it. We've been through this for decades where this team has struggled, but this is because it's nauseating, and fans are just really, they're talking about being done. And or that, it's just sad because I think someone like Sam here, who's a Browns fan and analyzes stuff. I think it's awesome, but it's like, in my opinion, it's just like, I just don't see this going very well for anybody. So I think Stefanski does hold on to his job probably this year, like most of you are speculating. But then after that, it's like, Jarrell, like you said, like how much further can you go? I mean, you're winning, 11 games. Is he the guy that can take him over the hump? I don't know. I thought in moments, I think he is, but
I don't think so. Because if you look at what he's had, we talked about it earlier in the show. He had a top 5 running game. Okay. He's had a top 10 defense at least 2 of those 4 years. Now I know it's a different division and I know the personnel was different, but when Mike Vrabel had Derrick Henry running all over people, when they got to the playoffs, they actually was able to make some noise. So, I think he's had his opportunities, but I think you give them until the bye. I think if they end up 1 something after this 3 games,
1-6 or 1-7. Yeah.
How can you I just don't understand how you can justify that, because I also think you got to look at Andrew Berry too. Which one of his draft picks was a home run? Was it JOK? Because he might be the only one. Was JOK his?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you're talking about a draft. You're not really.
Yeah, the stories out there that I'm hearing about, like Stefanski and Andrew Berry and Haslam with Watson, was that Andrew Berry was the guy that really wanted Watson and Stefanski. Is that the story that's got some weight to it, Steve? What do you think, Jarrell? Do you guys? I mean, that's what I
remember hearing. I remember that Stefanski didn't want Baker. He was kind of one of the, from what I remember hearing.
Yeah.
And I'm not plugged in, but I remember when Baker was having the shoulder issue, Stefanski felt like he couldn't win with him. So that's what I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a consensus decision. You got to also remember that 12 other teams wanted him too.
Yeah, and then we thought we were out of the. I wonder how that all.
We were out of it.
Yeah, how did that all?
It's. I think Barry and Stefanski. I'm going to give him 1 more year. I don't think Haslam's going to can him in the middle of the season. I don't care how south it goes. He's not going to do it.
Well, he didn't do it with Hugh Jackson. That's true too. We talked about that before.
Yeah, we're not the New York Jets. So, I'd like to see Stefanski with a healthy roster. And also I'd like to see how Andrew Berry is going to fix this, because he's going to have to invest quite heavily in the offensive line and the defensive line in the offseason. He's going to have to get good young talent in here. And if it does go south and they end up with a top 5 draft pick, then you've got to ask yourself, it's almost a certainty you have to take a quarterback. I mean, you don't take a lineman. Maybe you take a wide receiver if there's someone of the caliber of Jeremiah Smith or Ryan Williams, but they're not available. They're going to stay with their schools for 2 more years. So, and you don't take a tackle, even though this is a very good tackle draft. You don't take a tackle with a top 5 pick. So then you roll the dice on a rookie quarterback. Do you take do you find your next CJ Stroud, or are you condemned with a Josh Rosen? I mean, it's a roll of the dice.
That's the truth.
Bryce Young. Do you take a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud?
Right.
And I've heard players going, well, I've heard fans saying, well, they should just trade Deshaun Watson for Bryce Young. Are you kidding me? A guy that stand on a chair to see over his offensive line, you actually want Bryce Young as a starting quarterback. So that's why I discount a lot of the hellscape that is social media.
Yes.
Some of the stuff out there.
Sam, final thoughts tonight on our show. Before we get into that final thoughts, Sam, I want to remind everybody here that we've got all these great contributors here, Steve and Sam and Jarrell, who bring shows every week to you Dog Pound South podcast, Sam with his Browns breakdowns, Jarrell again with his dog food radio. Please listen to their shows. Please subscribe to us on Apple, on Spotify, so that you never miss one of these guys' shows. We're bringing you them every week. We're going to have a pregame show and a postgame show, rain or shine, again on Sunday. And also Hemisphere Coffee Roasters. They shake the hand of the farmer. Please go to our X page at the top where we have got it pinned. And if you click on that link, you can go buy coffee off of that link. And then you're contributing 15% to all of us here at the Fanatical Elfz Network, so we can continue to build a better product for you guys here at the Brown as we follow the Brownies. Sam, final thoughts.
Yeah, I think this is just kind of a time where we have to just sit it out. I mean, we unfortunately we kind of have to be used to this because of what the Browns have had to deal with many years in a row. But I think maybe we not tank, but maybe we just continue playing this year and we see what happens. And if we suck, we suck. If we manage to right this ship, we right the ship. I don't think there's this seems like a bad season, but I don't think there's a bad possibility with how the season continues. I think if we suck, we get a top 5 draft pick. Maybe we go for a Shadur Sanders. You never know. Maybe we go for a the other kid in Colorado, who I can never remember his name for some reason. Maybe if we drafted one of the better players off the Michigan or Ohio State or Alabama or whatever, or we manage to right the ship, win 10 games, make a wild card spot, and we can go from there. But I don't think there's a bad possibility. I just think it's gonna suck, but I think whatever happens is still going to be beneficial to this team in one way or another.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe long term it would. Yeah. Okay. Steve, what do you think tonight?
Well, I'm.
Are we still winning, by the way? Are we losing?
Yeah, 4-3. It is now the top of the 9th. They just got out of a jam. He had to bring in Clase to get the last out of the inning. Okay. Tigers had 3rd and 2nd.
Ooh.
So he brought in Clase for
glad you weren't telling me that during the
show. Outing.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to interrupt when things are going bad or getting a little dicey. I think that I'm just going to stick with this coaching staff and front office. I don't want to go through the dysfunction again. I'm tired of dysfunction. I don't think they're going to put us through that dysfunction. Name a coach that can come in here. Name another GM that'll come in here right now. Yeah. No, not going to do it. Can't get rid of Watson. Maybe in 2 years you can unload him. I will watch the games. I will root for the Browns. I am more looking forward to watching Vanderbilt at Kentucky on Saturday. They're an 11.5 point underdogs, which I don't understand. But really? I'm looking forward to that.
They just beat the number 1 team in the country, and they're on 11 point.
This week, they're
underdog to Kentucky.
They're the only college football team to beat a top 5. They're the only university to have their football team beat a top 5 opponent and win a Nobel Prize.
Oh,
figure that one out. Chemistry today.
Who was it?
It was, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head.
Okay.
But he won it for chemistry.
Nice.
Something about protein structures. So,
okay.
I'm not going to get really, really upset if they lose.
Did you say he invented? Did you say he invented the new Big Mac, chicken Big Mac? No, wait.
No. He found a way that Browns fans can calm down.
Have you guys seen this new outrageous sandwich that the McDonald's has come out with? 2 extra crispy, large ass McNuggets that they say are chicken sandwiches to make their new Big Mac sandwich. So, are you all going to run out?
It must be a regional thing, or Columbus is a test market.
Yes, must be.
I have not seen that
all right.
commercial, but
okay.
I'll watch them. I'll root for them.
Yeah.
this could be a game that can get things turned around. Philadelphia isn't the greatest defense in the world.
Yeah.
Watson has not lost the locker room. I wouldn't be surprised if Watson's pissed
You don't
at all
think
his
Watson's
teammates.
lost?
What?
That's a, oh boy. You that
No, he hasn't lost.
No, I know he hasn't lost.
I don't care what the players are saying out loud. That come on, man.
No.
You really
Believe
think
me.
that he hasn't? Okay.
Believe right now, there are two players keeping this locker room together. One is Myles Garrett, the other one is JOK. That's all I'm going to tell you.
That's fine. I agree with that.
Locker room.
Okay.
He has not lost the locker room.
Okay. All right. Jarrell, final thought.
2 points. I don't mind if they, because I don't really anticipate them winning unless they make drastic changes. But if they do lose the game, I don't want them to lose the fight. That's what I want to start seeing. I want to start seeing that Ravens game last year is what I keep going back to, is because they were beating them up. They were running the ball. The offensive line was pushing them back. The receivers were blocking. The defense was all over the place. So even when they were down 14 most of the game, they were fighting in that game. So even if they were going to lose the game, they wasn't going to lose the fight. And that's one of the major differences I see with this team. Maybe last year bumped their head up a little bit, and they're playing a little bit too pretty, and like you did the celebration and the flag got called back. Like, y'all need to know it's a flag you know what it's dancing for. So that's what I'd like to see going into Sunday. But number two, if they do get whatever they are in the draft, I don't care if they pick top 5 or it's a top 20 pick. I think you got to look at the defense. I think you got to continue to shore up this defense, because the defense is the only thing that, to me, is giving this team hope, is that the defense, I counted the plays, and they were on the field for like 40 plays, I think, in the first 14 minutes of the game. Something crazy.
Insane.
So you got they have to get the offense rolling, but to me, the defense is the strength of the team. You need to keep reloading that. And so I think teams take on the personality of their coach.
Yes.
I think Kevin Stefanski is a little bit too finesse, even with the play calling, like not running the ball. I don't care if they know you're about to run the ball. Try to get 3 or 4 yards. So you're not putting the offense in 3rd and 9 and 3rd and 10. Run it 2 times. And you know what I'm saying? And not this drop back and, okay, we're going to look over here and then we're going to send it back to the flat.
There's a lot of conversation about this, the shotgun. And they talked a lot about it in the game last week on TV about how, really, they'd rather, or a better offense for the Browns would be to have Watson under center to give, to create play action, and they're not doing that. And anyway, that's
got to run the ball to have play action, John.
Well, yeah, okay.
And
that's the only problem.
They have a tail. Their tail is if they're under center, it's probably a run. If they're in shotgun, it's probably a pass. Like they're too predictable, and I don't blame that on Watson. I blame that on who's calling the plays. And I'll end with this. I thought when you're an offense coordinator, you're supposed to be calling a cover 2 beater, a cover 3 beater, a man beater. You're guessing what the defense is going to come out.
Yes,
and that's the play you're calling. I've been watching these games 4 or 5 weeks. I don't know who they're trying to attack. I don't know what part of the defense they're attacking, because it's obvious that they're sitting on all the.
That's a good point. I heard you talk about that in your show.
They're daring you to throw it intermediate or down the field. So at some point, you got.
I guess the only thing I would counter with that is, and I know I'm just taking a play here or a play there, and I know it's not a fair or complete good analysis, but there have been plenty of analysts out there on social media, and probably good that you're staying away from it, that are showing, and I know there's limited examples where there are, like, Stefanski is calling plays that are creating they're creating openings. Players are open, wide receivers are open. Please, Watson is just in a trance, and he can't get rid of the ball. And he's missing when the opportunity's there multiple times. Either if it's Cooper sliding across on a little hitch, or or just lots of things that are open that he's not seeing. I'm saying again, it's limited. It's taking like 2 or 3 plays, and it's not the 50 or 60 plays overall. So, but I don't think that Stefanski's necessarily calling bad plays all the time. I think he's calling a pretty good game, and I just think it's because the two of them can't get on the same page. And that's what everyone else is talking about, is why can't those two guys get on the same page when Stefanski can get on the page with everybody else under the sun, from Joe Flacco to PJ Walker even last year, and the offense flows. We can't score more than 15 or 16 points this season. I hope to God that we can see something more on Sunday. But
you know what I'd love to see a count of, a breakdown? How many power plays has he called? Because football really is a simple game. It's a simple game. I know chicks dig the long ball, and I think Noah said on here that this is a passing league. Guess what? At the end of the day, if you can't run the ball, you're going to lose a lot of games. So,
well, you know me. I mean, I know what I said about Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunter and all that stuff earlier, and their balance attack and everything. But, and I know you don't want to tire Nick Chubb out, but I'm more like, I'd rather give Nick Chubb the ball 25, 30 times every game, but that's not going to happen, and it's not realistic. But I like the run game, so I'm all about running it and pounding it, but that's not what we're going to see from Stefanski. Even though Stefanski's not ever been higher than, what did you say, number 19 in the passing game or something?
I believe it's.
Okay. Well,
who knows? You might see a heavy set the entire game. He might trot out the wishbone. Who knows? Wouldn't that be great? I'd love it.
At least they'd be trying. They'd be trying something.
At least they'd be trying. Exactly. So
I think it's all Browns fans want to see.
I'll give you one quick question before we go. What if they score 30 points and lose 31-30?
At least I'm kind of more like, I think they put a fight into it. Like, at least that shows fans, at least maybe the Browns put a little bit more effort into it. They got 30 points.
Into it.
Yeah,
also, real quick before we go, ignore anybody who puts a screenshot on social media.
Okay, I understand the screenshot. I know what you're saying there. I'm saying
that is the hellscape of social media.
And I'm looking at a guy that had video of at least 3 plays, and I'm just sharing out of where he's sharing the play, and it's on
get off social media. After a loss, don't go to social media. I applaud Jarrell for having the
Sam,
the consistency to stay off of it.
Have a good night down there in Texas. Steve, have a great evening. It looks like the Indians have the bases loaded. No, they have runners on first and third.
One out. David Fry at the plate.
And something just said, did something happen? Or did
I don't know. My ESPN app is frozen.
Oh, he scored another run. Yes. They got a run.
There you go.
Another one. They're up 5-3, folks.
Insurance.
It's looking
awesome.
Better. Jarrell.
David Fry. Hot.
Jarrell, thank you so much for being here. You guys are great. Please, again, Fanatical Elfz Network. I know Sherry, thank you for watching our show. And she had her own show the other night. She had the Spider Adventures.
Yeah,
Brown Spider. Which is a Brown fan. A lot of us follow him, and I liked his stories. And he talked a lot about how he goes to some of these destinations, and the Browns might lose or they suck, but he always says he spends, on purpose 2 or 3 extra days in these destination cities, because then gives him a chance to see these places and learn more about America and stuff. And I just thought that was really kind of cool. I don't know him personally, but I thought that was a nice, it's nice that they're able to do that. So we got some wild and crazy Browns fans out there, man.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a few of them here in the Fanatical Elfz. Guys, thanks again. Have a good night. Go Browns, as I try not to cough.
Browns.
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. See ya.